Hi everyone, it's Lisa on Love Live. Tonight we have a steamy conversation with you with a special guest who is actually an expert in the area. I had the privilege and honor of meeting Jenna Ponaman a few months ago when I was part of a coaching group on Facebook. We believed together and collaboratively about the idea of co-opetition. She's an incredible relationship expert herself in the area of sensuality and sexuality. And as our conversations would get going when we were getting to know each other, my goodness, did I learn a lot about sensuality and thought it would be incredible to bring her on to share with our audience as well.
So, we haven't been on for a while. It's good to be back. You know, if you're watching it live, it's in North America, it's the summer solstice. So this is the Lisa on Love Live Summer Season, Episode 1. And it happens to be the first day of summer here in North America. So happy summer to all of us in North America.
And thank you for joining us live. And if you're on the replay, that's incredible too. Tonight we're going to talk about the differences between sensuality and sexuality. We're going to actually talk to Jenna and have her teach us some tips and tricks in regards to making sensuality a part of our everyday life. And we're also going to talk about the advantages of why it is you would want to make sensuality a part of your everyday life. So we're going to invite Jenna on here, and she's going to have an incredible conversation with us about how that all looks. And then we have some special surprises for you at the end of the episode, so we'll hope that you'll stick around and get part of the conversation. Feel free tonight to ask your questions or leave your comments below this live video. It's going to be a great, steamy, smoking hot conversation. So right now, what I want to do is, what do you guys think about sensuality? Well, usually when we have the conversation of sensuality, you know, the conversation of sex is right behind it. And a lot of that has to do with maybe practices in regards to Tantra and those kinds of things. Nope, she's still not there. So we're just waiting for Jenna, but...
It says there's 3 people, though.
Okay, well, let's touch this. Hold with us, guys. Bear with us.
No?
We need to get the expert on here because what I know about sensuality is very pale in comparison.
Oh, there she is.
Okay. We're going to touch her.
Hit the little thing.
And we're going to say...
Bring Jenna on camera.
Bring
right
Jenna on camera. I love
All right.
it. Thank goodness she's want to hear me talk about sensuality.
Oh,
we need to have the expert. She's adding. However, a lot of us think that sensuality and sexuality is a very combined thing. It is combined, but it's not the same. So the differences between sensuality and sexuality is vast differences. Oh my goodness, there she is. Hi, Jenna. Welcome to the show.
We found out the trick is being on my phone.
We did it.
We did.
Just for our live viewers out there, you know what, you guys, we have been working on this for about, 15 minutes. And you know how Facebook is always changing their algorithms. And so the way we used to do it isn't necessarily the way it went down today. So we were all a little confused. So I apologize for the wait, but this is going to be so worth it. Jenna, it's great to see you. You look fantastic. Let me introduce the audience to you. A spectacular, amazing woman. Jenna and I, the first moment we met, we took off on this conversation. And I don't know, for me, my experience was a good 45 minutes passed, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, what time is it? I have another client after this. And every time I've met with Jenna, that's the way it goes, as we start talking about love, relationships, some of the things that we love to contribute in our work, some of the things that we're passionate about changing and contributing to the world and humanity. And then we had this wonderful conversation in one of our conversations about sensuality. And I learned that Jenna is an expert in this area, as well as being very credentialed in many areas, coaching, sociology degree at the university. Remind me, I'm looking at my notes. Right University of
Cal State
California,
University,
Cal State.
Northridge.
She is not only credentialed, but an incredible woman. And we're so delighted to have you on the show here tonight, Jenna. So she is going to share with you about sensuality. We're going to have a conversation about that. And then we have some special surprises at the end of the episode, just like I promised.
Oh.
And it was cute because in one of our conversations, Jenna, we actually said, do we need Tom on this? And then we said, yeah, we do. Because, you know, the guys they got to be represented, right? Absolutely.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, this isn't a super deep, serious conversation. It can be, but you know what? This is a place to have fun. It's safe. It's exciting. It's enticing. So why not? We need the best of both worlds here.
I absolutely agree. And I don't know about you, but if you haven't already, those who are watching us live, get your favorite beverage. That's one of the things that we encourage you to do. This is a conversation. Become part of the conversation. Let us know your comments, your thoughts, your questions is all welcome here tonight. I have my personal glass of wine. Cheers. Jen, I don't know if you have one on your side, but hey.
It moved somewhere. I went from phone to computer, but there it is. It's in a canteen, but it's nice and spicy. So
excellent. So
right
one of the things that I started to talk with the live audience while we were struggling with the technology and getting you on here is the idea between sensuality and sexuality being, thought of in the same breath. So I think the first thing I would love for you to share with us all is tell us the differences between that in your work, and help us kind of gain a new understanding and a new belief around this whole idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest misconception is that sensuality is sexuality in some shape or form. Sensuality is not this weapon to ultimate seduction. It is not that thing that you do that is gravitating people towards you in a sexual way. They're connected. They're not mutually exclusive. So sensuality is certainly something that helps build the sexual presence and the sexual tension and all those things that we are yearning for in that sense. But you do not need sexuality to cultivate your sensuality by any means.
So where is the line, if you can give us an idea of where that line between sensuality and sexuality begins and ends? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So sensuality is really something that's the internal feminine energy, masculine energy for a man. It's really that connection to feeling alive and that turn on that we talk about, but not necessarily in a sexual way. It's the part that really brings the butterflies in our stomach and kind of brings the chill up our spine in any sense of the phrase. Sexuality is really something that can just be a 5-minute wham bam thank you ma'am. It's something that's really just very strictly focused on sort of the primal areas such as genital regions, things of that nature, but it's not something that's really internalized and lasting.
So sensuality is, and I remember learning this with you, is all of the wonderful things that are leading up to that moment of sexuality, but can also be just a heightened sense of awareness in regards to our day-to-day life. Yeah?
Exactly. If it's taking deep breath, if it's just taking in the environment around you, the food and drink that you consume, feeling your hair. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are some of your fun ways of like stepping into that idea? Maybe a long day, stepping into the idea of sensuality, right? Hanging that up on the shelf.
Right. Some of my personal, as I mentioned, for me, hair is a thing. I kind of play with the hair all the time, but it's sort of a very interesting thing that just sort of subconsciously happens that as you tap into that sensuality, you really become very, very detail oriented of all the things around you. Your senses are very heightened, very sharpened. So for me, sort of this softness of the texture, I'm very textural. When it comes to feeling, soft touching is something that all of a sudden will kind of take me out of my head and out of my surrounding and just really kind of ground me in what I'm feeling in that moment. And that's really what sensuality is about. It's really about being present in the here and now and really being able to drink in every ounce of energy, every ounce of your being that's happening in that time.
In that very specific moment. I guess the word does come from the word senses, doesn't it? Sensuality. It does come from the word senses. So it's engaging maybe as many senses as you possibly can in this particular moment, which brings us back into our bodies.
Exactly. I mean, the literal term sensuality means to engage your senses, to turn on the senses to that feeling of aliveness. So it really has nothing to do with sex or that sort of ecstasy, but it fuels all of that.
Yeah, it sounds like almost, when I hear that, it's raising your appreciation and sensory. You're living life in a much higher vibrational manner. I mean, you're appreciating everything, not just sex, obviously, but it's interesting. But I mean, you can take that highly, you're raising your state of appreciation, really, it sounds like, through you know, kinesthetic or whatever the senses are.
Well, and absolutely, when you get more in tune with what's going on around you in that particular moment, you know, that absolutely does increase it, whether we're having sex or whether I'm on a walk or whether I'm having a wonderful conversation. I can't tune into my senses, right? Is what I hear you saying. If I'm on my phone or if I'm distracted, you know, if I am thinking about something or doing something else, then I'm not necessarily using all 5 of my senses to be present with you now and taking in, you know, your smell, the way you look, you know, what you're wearing, the food that we're eating, the wine that we're sharing, maybe the texture or the art on the wall or the fabrics or whatever. It's so funny as we're having this conversation today, it's taking me back to being a kid, and I had a very specific blanket and it was very soft. And I remember my mom wrapping it up and giving it to me for my 21st birthday, which of course I thought was long since gone. And I remember what the day that it was kind of taken from me, saying I can't necessarily drag my blanket to school anymore. And I remember hunting through the house for it. I mean, it was my blanket that I would put over the heater and let the heater blow on me, and I'd wrap it up. And if I need nurturing, you know, I had to have it to sleep. It was all these very significant things. And it's fun, just like you said with your hair, you know, you get a certain texture or a certain song or something, and then it takes you to a very in your body, I'm present here now, I'm feeling so much better place, right? Did you ever have anything like that? I'm just curious. Did you have a blankie when you were kids?
I don't, not offhand. Not that one that I received back when I was 21 anyway.
The thing was a rag. It was shredded. It was the most awful thing. I now understand why my mom took it from me. But at the time, I was like, what are you doing? You know, this isn't okay. I understand now why she wouldn't let me take it to school. It was a good call.
I mean, guilty confession, I still have my childhood blanket that's atrocious and smelly and disgusting sitting in my room somewhere, but I'm not getting rid of it because it's not a place. Still go to
you know, since we're talking about sensuality and like childhood, you know, that starts to explain why it is when we hear a certain or smell or hear certain sounds, we hear a certain song, we smell a certain smell, right? Whether that's food that we used to enjoy when we were at home in our homes as a kid growing up, or the smell of a perfume that reminds us of our grandparent, a lover, an ex-lover, you know, all of these things are so associated, and we really do live life through our senses, you know.
Absolutely. You know, speaking of smell, I had the exact same experience when one of the first signs of me ever really realizing that I was tapping into sensuality was that I was just embracing my grandfather. So nothing romantic whatsoever, but I had nosebleeds as a child. And so my father was forcing me to go get my blood drawn to find out if I was anemic. And I was raging and mad and upset and screaming and crying. And all of a sudden my grandfather leans over and he goes, smell my neck. And all I did was close my eyes and embrace the smell of his Dolce cologne. And the entire room just went away. Because all of a sudden, I was so engaged into what smelled so good to me that the fear and the anger and the hatred and all those sort of external things I had no control over just went away. And I was able to just be there and be present with what was right in front of me.
Wow, you know, that takes me to a conversation that you came home and had with me just a couple of days ago, where you said, babe, I've been up to this beautiful place. And you started going on about, you tell the story. You started going on about this way it smelled and the beauty of it. And
it's a place up in the foothills, you know, where you're into the pines. It's probably 2,500 to 3,000 feet. So, and then the summertime, when you get into the pines, it seems to magnify the smell of the pines, like you're in Tahoe, but you're not that far. And yeah, it was literally intoxicating in a good way. It just was like, oh my gosh. It just took me like I could have been in Tahoe when I was there in my car with the windows open. It was unbelievable
the power of that. It was incredibly sensuous. I mean, it was just like, oh, the smell of that, you know, is just delightful.
Mm-hmm.
Delightful.
Right. And that's the beauty of sensuality, is that when you get to that place of that feel-good state, when that really triggers on and turns on and you're able to cultivate and strengthen that sensuality for yourself, that is when you're at your absolute best. And ultimately, when it comes to sexuality, that's what we're really going for. That's what we're looking to achieve, is that sensual pleasure that we get through the physical interaction.
Sure.
So
through the sight, the touch, the
exactly.
You know, as we were joking in an earlier conversation, that's why Barry White was such a hit, right? We were talking about back in the 70s when he became a thing. I remember us going to some parties, having a drink, Barry White playing in the back, and I bet there was a lot of babies made to Barry White.
Oh, I know there was.
You might be one of them.
Sure. My mother might have been. Yeah, absolutely.
So, some of the advantages to heightening our sensuality, yes, is better sexual relationships, right? A better experience overall in regards to sharing ourselves with a loved one. You know, that's important. That's amazing. There's a reason why we all like the candle lit and the music playing and a glass of wine that relaxes us and tastes good, that we have a special dinner with people that we really want to deeply connect with, right? We have a conversation over food, the texture, the plates. It's beautiful. It's lovely, right? And it puts us in a mood.
Exactly. And I just want to point out, from as you're speaking of the examples that are all so beautiful and so exciting for most of us, is that there's a degree of sensuality when we don't actually make it a habitual practice and really figure out what it is that turns us on to that sensual pleasure. We sort of kind of do the half-assed work, so to speak, where we go, oh, this is what other people find to be a turn on to them, so that's what I'm going to do. And yet when they do have the experience, they're left feeling somewhat unfulfilled, or expectations aren't unmet, or they are unmet, excuse me. And so if you wonder why, it's because you're not really cultivating your own sensuality, but you're taking on sort of the identity of someone else's sensuality.
Yeah, that is such a great point. And do you think that sometimes we even feel a little bit shameful or guilty because what we hear in the movies or in literature and those kinds of things, and we try it and it doesn't necessarily work for us, we start to make up all kinds of crappy stories about not being a good lover, not being able to access that, you know, I'm not capable of finding pleasure in the act of sex, or, you know, I know you too probably have some clients that make up some very interesting stories about what's possible for them based on literature, movies, how other people view this as far as an experience goes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The number one thing that my female clients will come to me particularly is that they have an expectation that a man is supposed to come and, like, oops, excuse me, holding my phone. You know, they have that expectation that the man is supposed to come and sweep them off their feet and wine and dine, and it's the instant connection of chemistry, and they instantly just know when they're supposed to fall in love, and the butterflies are just there, and that the guy's perfect and flawless, and, you know, all these things. So when they actually go and meet a partner, a potential mate, they have these really high expectations that nothing can go wrong, but oops, we're human. There's things that they do or say, you know, right, that they're not mind readers. They don't know what you want. And so most of the time they're left kind of unfulfilled and disappointed, and then they think, oh, there's nobody out there that actually exists, that, you know, of what I want. There's nobody that will fulfill those needs. But in actuality, what's happening is that these women haven't taken the time to really explore what's going on underneath them and really say, okay, what do I really want? What is it that people are telling me I think I want versus what I genuinely get excited about, that makes me come alive, that really makes me enjoy the here and now.
I love that. And this ties beautifully. I'm going to push it back so we can get you in there, honey. Into a question that was just asked on the live that says, you know, how come it is that we confuse sensuality and sexuality so much? It's almost like we're afraid to connect with our sensuality because it seems like it's provocative or inappropriate. You know, we can't really allow ourselves to go there. And that's kind of along the lines
Yeah,
of what you were just saying, is we're taking in a lot of information from other sources, thinking that this is the way that I'm supposed to be, and if not, then somehow there's something wrong with me. And then all of a sudden I start making it up that, you know, I'll never be able to have X because of it, right?
right. Well, that comes down to, again, sensuality is very often confused with something that is an external thing that you have to do to turn somebody else on, when it's the opposite, something internal that you do to turn yourself on.
Oh, I love that. That is
Thank
so
you.
cool. I love that. You're right. It's kind of like taking the responsibility for you being engaged in the situation instead of sitting around waiting for somebody else to do it for you.
Right. And, you know, if you want to take it back to the conversation of sexuality, that is the ultimate turn on. I mean, if we're really talking about that weapon of seduction that we have, it's really that moment when you've discovered yourself, when you've discovered that aliveness in you. There's a fire that turns on. And partners acknowledge that and they sense that within you. So it's not just a 5-minute wham bam thank you ma'am anymore. There's that sexual tension that happens, it's gone, but then the partner's left with, there's something mysterious happening going on with this person, and I want to know more. I want to explore that because that fire's there, and I really want to see how I can even enlarge that flame. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So the advantages then of developing our sensuality, and what I'm hearing you say is that it is a practice. It is something that you can get better at. It is something that you can turn into something that is an everyday part of your life, right?
Absolutely. It is something that, I'm sorry?
I know, I was just going to say, give us all some reassurance about that, right? It is something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the beautiful thing to sensuality is you don't need to wait for a sexual experience to practice it. You can do it every minute of every day, and that's really the goal that you're looking for, is you want to learn how to tap into that sensuality all the time. And it could be something as little as doing something that is really, ooh, we cut out, sorry. I think I was getting a phone call. So it could be something where, you know, you're doing something really healthy for yourself, like drinking a healthy shake or going for a walk, or for me, it's playing with my huskies, because that's, you know, I'm an obsessed husky mom. So that's my, for other people, it could be going outside and just taking in the environment around you. It could be spending time with that loved one and just looking at each other, which I was actually going to point out at the beginning of the call. I watched the two of you take a brief second, and the way that you look at each other, you can see that you're actually tapping into your own sensuality right in that moment, even if it's for a second. I don't know if you guys felt that with each other, but even the way that you look at one another, you see that aliveness come on. And you can see the difference when it's something that's genuinely coming from within you, as opposed to reaching for it outside of yourself. And it's really powerful.
And Jenna, if you had to give one, I know we have an awesome download above this, a link that has a really cool, it's a resource practice, but if you could give us one super ninja tip, what would you say in your practice that is a first place where you suggest people to start building to be more sensuous? What's something that we all can do pretty easily, pretty simply?
Yeah. So as you'll learn in that download that we do, it's for 10 days, 10 minutes a day, go somewhere where you can just be alone for that 10 minutes. Maybe close your eyes for a couple of minutes, just be in complete silence, open them up, and just pay attention to what's going on around you. Focus on one thing and really see how detailed you're looking into that, and what does that stimulate for you? What emotions come up for you? What does it make you think of? Things like that will help you start to slowly but surely cultivate that sensuality.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to have such confirmation on. I mean, would it probably be fair to say you're probably not going to get better at your sensuality if you're always in a state of being rushed. Probably
Absolutely. And you know, I live in LA, so I live in a town that's made to be always go. and you don't take a second to just breathe in the fresh air and just, you know, acknowledge your presence right now, that you're here in this world, you're breathing, you're healthy, you've got the clothes on your back and the food in your stomach.
Really well said.
Yeah, that's so true. It really does. It takes me back to a movie, Under the Tuscan Sun, that I watched many, many years ago. And I remember thinking, oh, you too? Oh, I love that show.
Oh,
And you know what scene I'm going to go to then? You know, the very sensuous blonde woman who is taking in everything, you know, the texture, the people, the touch, the smell. I remember her eating something, you know, and it's like in the movie, you're just right there with her, right? And so when you said, you know, you were complimenting Tom and I, and thank you so much for that sweet acknowledgement. But I'm sure that that's what draws us into some moments where somebody is purely in the moment, soaking it up, whether that's an artist playing their music or a chef making their food, or, you know, us as we get to live and breathe in nature, or have that conversation where time seems to fade away. And I know and sense that it's just you and I in the room. You know, those are all things that those who are watching are like watching too, right? It draws us in as human beings when we feel like we're witnessing, you know, sensuality at work, right?
Absolutely. And that's really in that sexual presence, that, because I know everyone's hopping on the call going, you know, how do I make my sex life hot and steamy? That's what you're looking for. Because when you think about it, you're in that moment, that orgasm, that ecstasy. That is what you're tapping into. It's that feeling that it's just you in that room, in that space right there, and you are feeling everything. Your senses are completely turned on, and you are just locked in on your body and what's stimulated inside you emotionally.
Right. Well, they always say, you know, the brain is the greatest sex organ, right? It's where you're going, what you're focusing on, right? Being present in the moment always helps you have a better sexual experience than it does, you know, just kind of thinking about doing the laundry and your grocery list and
right,
the tasks that were unfinished at work. And I don't think any of us females can get there from here, you know? It's about being in your body. And that is an incredible practice that we can start practicing through our sensuality so that we can be present in our bodies. And would you say that that's kind of maybe a huge problem in regards to, you know, women? You hear that women have a very difficult time getting into and embracing their sexuality, right? That I hear a lot with my clients as well, you know, the orgasm is just something that they've forgotten about, especially as they enter their 50s, 60s and such. You know, it's just been this elusive thing that they've never really been able to enjoy. And so they just kind of cast it aside and almost give thanks when they go through the menopause process that they don't have to deal with that anymore, right? Which is really sad. It's really unfortunate because there's such a richness there. And I think it's our ability to be present in our bodies, right? It's the ability to give the permission to ourselves to know that it's okay to have those kinds of thoughts and feelings, and to focus on our sensuality and being present in the sexual moment. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying it, you know, getting it all over us, right, so to speak, and really being present for the experience. I think that men have a much easier time with that, not necessarily because they're more prone sexually, although that's what the experts say. It's simply because they've been given more permission to go there. There's no mental belief block. They're just like, hey, that's what I do. That's what I do, man. I get my thing on. I'm in my body. I'm present here now, baby, right? There's no, is this okay? You know, is this,
right.
Maybe this isn't ladylike. You know, I don't want to be classified in any of those other categories. So to be a good mom, a good wife, a good mom, you know, mother, or community member, or PTA president, I can't be having this go down. So I'd better get back to work, right? I'd love your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Oh, that is like a 2-hour conversation. But a lot of things come up on that. First, so for women, I would say especially the older generation, I have a lot of clients that go through very similar scenarios, and all of that sort of physical wall that we put up, their toughness, that hope of, oh, thank God for menopause, I don't have to deal with it anymore. It all starts from the internal fears and stories that we've built up from inside us, of saying if we open up to that, we're letting in all the heartbreak that's bound to happen. And that's not the case whatsoever. It's that we're really ultimately cutting ourselves off of all the pleasure that we're meant to have. So it's really about peeling back those layers and really rediscovering what it means to be a woman in this day and age. Because that's changed quite a bit. Women have, like you said, that idea of we have to be ladylike, we have to be proper, we're not supposed to be sexual beings. So cut all that off, right? Men are the ones that are supposed to do that. But that's not the case. Even for a man, I'd almost play a devil's advocate and say men have actually had to hide behind that just as much as a woman's had to hide behind being ladylike. Because not all men are these tough, uber, quote unquote, masculine men that like to lay it all out there and brag about, you know, how many women they got in a day or in a week or so on and so forth, or how they, you know, they got their rocks off. Some of these men really want to be connected to themselves emotionally, but God forbid they shed a tear, or God forbid they reminisce about the good times, because sensitivity is not appropriate for a man. That's a woman's thing.
Right.
So it happens on both sides of the spectrum. So now we're in this new day and age where we sort of did a reverse, where we have the Me Too movement and women really standing up in the feminist movement, which is so, so great. But at the same time, we've now decided we are going to be the other role. We're going to be strong and masculine, but we're still going to hide all of the things that actually excite us and make us feel truly alive.
Mm-hmm. And when we can peel all that away, like you said, and absolutely just share what really works for us from a sensuality standpoint of view as an individual, now we got something to work with, right? We like to say in our body of work that, you know, a great relationship is great because it works for the two people in it. That's it. That's all you got to focus on, right? Let all the rest of the stuff fall away and focus on what turns you on, what works for you, what heightens your senses, what it is the two of you like to do and share and become together as a couple.
Right. And it's before you even think of that joint sort of pleasure that you get from one another. It's like you can't have exciting sexual engagement unless you've had one with yourself. And so for women, I would invite them, such as your clients, I would invite them to take the time to get comfortable with just touching themselves. And that doesn't have to be sexual. That's just feeling your body and really engaging with it and tapping into that feminine energy, that true, powerful energy that's there, that really pays attention to the details and to the hairs and to the textures and all the things that are happening within your body when you are engaging with it.
I love that. So we have an incredible download. If you want to take on this practice of 10 minutes a day for 10 days to heighten your sensuality, which I highly recommend you do. If you've enjoyed this conversation, you're going to love that practice, and watch how that really spirals into the joy of everyday life. You know, the joy of being able to take in a face, a flower, nature, the beautiful foods that you eat, the beautiful music that you listen to, and the wonderful people that have the opportunity of crossing your path. It really does heighten all your experiences in this human experience we call life, right? So I want you to take us up on that and take advantage of that. It's just the link above this video. And we also have a special surprise for you, as I had promised when we opened up this episode. This has been such a delightful conversation for Jenna and I to engage in and to share with all of you on this episode, that we've decided to see if there's any interest in diving deeper into this conversation. And we've outlined a very simple course, a 3-day, or it's actually a 3-session course. And if you're interested in maybe having this conversation become a part of your life, where we can do a deep dive in regards to many of the points that Jenna had pointed out in regards to exploring your own sensuality, because that's critical before we can put it together and have maybe a heightened sexual experience as well. Let's focus in these 3 sessions of just getting connected with you, getting present in your body. What does that look like? And creating a safe container and conversation in which we can come together and we can explore this. So you got two powerhouse relationship experts that are willing to come together to facilitate this conversation of relationships and sensuality and sexuality in our bodies and how we might dive deeper in that. So please, if you're interested in that, click the link below and just let us know you're interested.
Is that a separate link or the same link?
There's two links above the video. One is for the download. One is for your interest in the course. Again, if you've loved this conversation and you want to have a deeper conversation about this with a group of supportive women, and we're only capping it at 20. There's only 20 people that we're going to allow into this course. So if you're interested, you've got to let us know so that we can send you some details. And then Jenna and I will put our genius together and we'll build out this course.
And if you know some ladies in your circle of influence that this would be a good spending of their time to deepen their sensuality, please share it with them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you that some of the highlights that we're going to cover is we're going to actually vision yourself and the connection that you truly want, right? So don't let that stop you. So many of us long for something, but we're not able to create it or connect with it in our lives, right? So the first thing that we're going to do after our blast off, getting to know each other, creating the safety that's present and needed for all of us to have this deeper conversation, is to set about envisioning what our life would be like in this sensuality place. Who would I have to become in order to really kind of take this on as a lifestyle, as a day-to-day experience for me? Is there anything you want to add to that, Jenna?
No, I feel like you've really summed it up pretty nicely, actually. It's really that first week, we're really just getting into clarity of that vision of who you are as a person, as a woman, as a male, if you're really excited to do this. It's really breaking the barriers of what's going on around you, letting go of everything that's happened in the past, not thinking about the future, just focusing right on the here and now. Who are you and what excites you?
Excellent. So the first week we've called Get Your Sexy On. The second week, we're going to talk about blocks and boundaries. I know, well, that was really good. We came up with that together. High five. Week 2 is all about blocks and boundaries. What stops us? What are our fears? You know, how is it that we get over and overcome, maybe not get over, but overcome those things that prevent us from turning and building a deep connection with ourselves through this idea of sensuality, sexuality. And then, of course, the boundaries that need to come up to keep ourselves safe, to give ourselves permission, to communicate those to others will all be things that we'll cover in week 2. And then week 3 is you get a personal plan put together with Jenna and I present that will help give you the confidence that you need to take this forward into your everyday life. We actually call it your personal plan for an orgasmic relationship, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's just one link, so you can go to the link for the download and for more information on the course as well. Just one link.
And there's one more thing, and forgive me because I forgot to tell you about this part, but we decided to throw in a bonus if you're interested in this course where we could ask you anything. We kind of put you in the hot seat.
Oh, all right. Love it.
If you ever wanted to understand the male conversation around sensuality and sexuality, because you know what? It's really fascinating when we as women start to get our heads and minds around the idea that men really don't enjoy the pressure of having to try and figure out what turns you on. That's really not a turn on for them. That really doesn't boost their confidence. That really doesn't help them feel confident as men. People go, what are you talking about? That's what men are supposed to do. No, that's the story that we've made up that men are supposed to do. And you know what? We don't like it. And neither do men. So that's one of the little snippets that I'll give you that's available in that conversation of, hey, talk to a man who I can tell you is in tune with his emotions, and he's very masculine, and he's a fantastic lover. I'll just throw that out there. He's going to be some inside tips on what a man really thinks and feels as a bonus to this 3-day course. So again, if you're interested, click the link above. The link will take you to, I apologize, one page, as Tom had said, where you get the download, and you can let us know that you're interested in the course. If we get enough response for it, we'll build this course out, and it will be phenomenal. You and I will put our genius together and create something really magical. Anything you want to add before we wrap up?
I will say this, those of you that are going to move forward in working on cultivating that sensuality, you're going to do that 10-day process, just a little bit of a take it easy. You might actually get a little bit of a feeling of numbness as you do it. You might not necessarily jump in right away to that feeling of excitement. That's actually a really, really, really great sign. It means you're starting to break those barriers and get through to truly tapping into sensuality. So, you know, heed with caution. Those first couple of days might be a little rough, but that means change is happening. No more games. You were really breaking in and getting sensual with yourself.
Oh, I love it. As always, it's a pleasure and a joy to connect with you, Jenna. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And thank you again from the bottom of our heart of coming on here and sharing your beautiful self and your amazing wisdom and genius with us. I so appreciate you. And I look forward to what happens next.
Me too. I'm so excited for this. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And again, you guys, if you need the download or you're interested in the course, for those of you who are maybe just jumping on now, the link is above us in this video. You're going to get a download into 10 days, 10 minutes a day to a practice that's going to help you increase your sensuality. And then if you're interested in this conversation after watching the live and you want to dive deeper, let us know that you're interested in that 3-week course, that 3-module course, and Jenna and I will put it together for you. So until next time, know that we're sending you extraordinary love along with the power to create it. It's been a pleasure to be here with you tonight. If this has been helpful, please share it with your friends and family. We've got to spread the word that there's some new ways of doing love and relationships in this day and age. It doesn't have to be all suffering, all pain. It actually can be delightful, building, growth promoting, and an incredible ride in regards to our love and relationships. So let's all make a commitment to love more and fear less as we step into loving ourselves best of all. Have a wonderful
Good night,
week.
everybody.
I look forward to seeing everybody soon.
Good night.
Bye, honey.
Bye.